It was a long and costly cab ride to the main medical center hospital. Along the way, Stanley went into and out of consciousness. When he finally arrived, he paid the driver and thanked him. The driver was pleased. He received a substantial tip on top of the fare, plus he kept the Cartier watch. Stanley was eager to see the twins and his mother. He found and started speaking to the nursing staff. They tried to follow his story. They saw that his left foot was swollen. It also appeared he had some type of bite mark on the same leg. The nursing staff placated his request to see his mother and the twins by saying he could see them as soon as they stabilized him. They then rushed him to care. They had no idea who or where his mother or twins were. His story was not very lucid. They were unable to get enough precise information from him prior to sedating him to conduct a proper search for the alleged patient. As soon as we get this swelling down and care for this wound, we can locate your mother and the twins, okay? The staff gave him general anesthesia to sleep, and soon Stanley was out. They immediately started to work in tandem on his issue. They feared that he could lose his foot. They drained it to remove the massive amount of swelling and retrieved an anti-venom serum common for snakes in the tri-state area for him. They prayed that they had chosen correctly. The dog bite medical response was clear and textbook. He was tested for rabies, he was given a few shots, and his open wounds were cleaned and stitched up. October the 28th. When Stanley came to the next morning, he was very anxious. The nurses recalled among themselves hearing him mumbling something about a witch in his sleep and watched him through the night as he tossed and turned before finally waking up. "Where is she? She's trying to kill me." Stanley was fearful of a witch. He was also fearful of his wife. Somehow a witch was seeking revenge. The staff tried to understand him but struggled to make sense of it. They gave him benzodiazepine family medication to calm him down a bit. Eventually Stanley's anxiety level lowered. He felt normal and calm. More importantly, the nursing staff found him to act normally and less of a perceived danger to them or himself. Stanley eventually spoke to the nursing staff. "Were you able to save my foot? I'm afraid to look and I don't feel anything below my knee." "You were quite lucky, Stanley. Between the apparent dog bite and snake bite, you were very fortunate to be alive. In my many years as a nurse, I've never had a patient with both injuries at the same time. Just how did this happen? Please, I'm feeling quite weak and unable to fight with you. Answer my question. Were you able to save my foot? How was my mother and where are the twins?" "Well, you've lost 3 toes. You will be able to walk as early as today if you push yourself. It will be slow going for you for a few days. By either Halloween or November the 1st, in 3 or 4 days, you will be well on your way and almost as good as new. We've taken the liberty to make a mold of your feet and the toes that you've lost to have a brace constructed to aid you in your recovery. Perhaps in a month from now, you won't need it at all." Stanley was initially, internally, and visibly worried. However, his mood shifted. He shifted from worry to anger as images flashed through his mind of the events from the previous 24 hours. "My wife is the cause of this. She is the cause of my injuries." "Explain. Does she have a pet dog or snake? You two live together? Are you having a bitter separation? I need to speak to the police. Is my mother here? Is she okay? I'd like to see her now. Please, I'd like to see her now." "We can arrange that if she's here. What is her name? I'll be right back with the wheelchair." Stanley provided all the pertinent details. The nurse left to verify the information. She was completely satisfied with what she found and returned. In less than 3 minutes, the nurse returned from the nurse's station with the wheelchair. "What do you know about her condition?" "My wife and I brought her in last night due to spider bites." "Is this the same wife whose dog and snake bit you?" "Yes. It's difficult to explain. Where is she now?" "I'm unsure. I'll tell you what. Let's focus on Mom. How is she? Did I get my mother here on time?" "Barbara sleeps a lot, but she's stabilized. We think she will recover. She has extensive spider bites on her legs. Do you have any idea what happened or how it happened?" "My wife," Stanley mumbled under his breath, "that witch. She's in a private room on the 4th floor. Her insurance covers a private room?" With a slight chuckle in her voice, the nurse responded, "Emily, your wife, she called and demanded a private room for her and made payment arrangements to cover anything beyond what Barbara's insurance would cover." "Did she?" "Yes. She called from an out-of-town number. Her call was all the buzz during our shift change. We all commented on how sweet yet demanding and particular she was about her mother-in-law. I think it was the first for our team that a wife actually appeared to care for or even liked her mother-in-law." The nurse got Stanley positioned in the wheelchair and in place for the elevator's eventual arrival. She pressed the elevator's up button. Stanley was anxious to see his mom and to know she was well. The elevator door closed behind them and they went up to the 7th floor. Others came in and entered on each floor as they traveled to a higher level. Because Stanley was in a wheelchair, he and his nurse were in the center of the elevator, and everyone who entered moved into the available space around him. At some point, in the exchange of bodies into and out of the elevator on the various floors, a child stood next to Stanley and casually placed his hand on Stanley's hand. Stanley was initially shocked but quickly comforted because the kid's mother saw the gesture and understood her child's kind-hearted tendencies and approved. The child then whispered a phrase in Stanley's ear. Stanley turned ghostly white and became immediately distressed. He snatched his hand away just as the door chimed. It announced the arrival of the elevator onto the 7th floor. Stanley was in a hurry to see his mom. Before the elevator door closed to continue to the higher floors, the little boy spoke to Stanley. "Goodbye, Stanley. Take me to my mother's room immediately. We're almost there. I think Barbara will be excited to see you." According to the 7th floor staff, all she can seem to talk about was how you and your wife saved her. She jokes and says that I wish that they came by more often and for more unplanned family visits. She also keeps saying something like they never bring the archaeologist over anymore. "Is the archaeologist your son?" "Well, here we are. This is her room." The nurse knocked on the door. "May we come in? I have a visitor for you." "Just open the door. It's me. I'm her son and she'll be happy to see me." "Just wait a second. She may be in the restroom." "Barbara, can we come in? Are you asleep?" "Open the damn door, please." "Okay, just calm down." The nurse opened the door and gasped. She found Barbara on the floor. She had a faint pulse but was unresponsive. Stanley sobbed aloud and screamed, "Barbara, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can." It took 3 staff members to untangle the tubes and cords from around her neck. They were able to stabilize her breathing and pulse, but not before a certain amount of damage was done. Barbara had entered into a self-induced coma due to asphyxiation. The doctors and nurses were hopeful for a full recovery. There were signs of brain activity. Aside from a miracle, it was up to Barbara to pull herself through. In the minutes after finding Barbara on the floor, the staff started to speculate on what happened. They wondered what caused her to get entangled in such a way. They theorized that she tried to get to her private restroom alone rather than use the bedpan. Perhaps she felt that she had enough strength in her legs, even after the severe spider bites, to go to and from her bed to the toilet. They speculated that as she walked to the restroom, she slipped somehow and coiled herself in the IV hoses and other cords around her neck. She then struggled to free herself and inadvertently cut off her oxygen supply. They commented among themselves that Barbara was lucky the nurse arrived when she did. "Barbara, you need to fight." Stanley watched the whole event unfold in front of him and was helpless to do anything to prevent the asphyxiation or to get her back onto the bed and stabilize. The nurse spoke to Stanley. "We are lucky you insisted on seeing your mother and that you demanded that we enter her room. Had we delayed any further, even just a few more seconds, the outcome would have been different." According to the 7th floor nursing staff and their charts, the doctor was just in her room with 2 physician assistants going over her recovery plan with her. This was just minutes before our arrival. It was just amazing that we came when we did. Stanley was shattered and continued to sob. "Let me get closer to her. I want to hold her hand and I want to tell her that I love her." "Give the team about 2 more minutes and then you can spend as much time as you like with Barbara. In fact, since you are essentially paying for the room, you can stay in here with her. The room is designed for 2 people. Would you like that?" Now at his mother's side, Stanley spoke to her. Mom, Mommy, I love you. Please don't leave me. Stanley cleared his throat in order to continue speaking. I was told to tell you that Emily is saddened that this has happened to you, but she feels comfortable and confident that both you and her mother will someday recover from your individual comas. Stanley raised his right hand up and cupped the back of his head. He started to rub the rear of his head in a circular pattern, disheveling his hair as he searched for what to do or say next. It was killing him to see his mother this way. Mom, if you can hear me, please squeeze my hand. It may be my last time to share a moment like this, and I could use your reciprocal and loving touch. He squeezed his mother's hand. It felt warm. He waited for a response, but she was not able to squeeze his hand. He did not get a reciprocating touch. He cried and tried to turn his face away from his mother so she could not see it. Barbara's eyes were closed, so even if she were lucid, she would not have seen Stanley's tears. Stanley untwined his hand from his mother's and then kissed her hand. That would have to suffice for now. Stanley rang the bell for the nursing attendant. A nurse entered the room. How can I help you, Stanley? Are you and your mother okay? Yes and no. If I'm being perfectly honest, we're both alive. In that respect, things are okay. No, because it's not yet over. We will both have to fight to survive our individual issues. In that case, I don't feel very lucky or hopeful for either of us. Stanley shed a few more tears and wiped them away. So, the reason I rang was not to tell you that. I rang because I'm hungry. Is there something you can bring? Also, Judge Marshall, I heard there was a fire at his place recently. Is he okay? I was at his wife's funeral just days ago. Marshall was like an older brother and his twins feel like my flesh and blood kids. Is everyone okay? I think I recall meeting you when you came to see Ellen before her untimely death. Judge Marshall considered you family, so I will share this with you. The judge did not make it safely out of the house fire. We have 2 orphan boys here and no family to release them to. Perhaps you can contact a good lawyer and get temporary or permanent custody assigned to someone. Thank you. I thought your face looked familiar. That was a devastating day for me, and you and the staff treated her with dignity. Please fetch me something to eat. After a bite to eat, I would love to see the boys. Can I use the phone to call an outside line? Sure. So, not sure what the other nurse told you, but you and your wife have paid for this room premiere suite. Call all you want to, watch any TV show on any channel. You can order special meals or have the meal of the day. We have a selection of standard breakfast, lunch, and dinner options to choose from. Stanley was slightly annoyed to know that his wife was paying for this.